All right, welcome to another episode of Investing with Quito. We have my co-host here, Jeremy. How are you this morning, Jeremy?
We're good. We're good. Everything's going along.
All right, well, let's just kind of jump in. I know, I mean, it's how has your week been?
Truthfully, it's been a crazy week. It's been
Hmm.
chaotic. I think I've had something every single night this week, in
Okay.
the evening. So waking up really early and then going to bed late and doing that 5 days a week really does drain you. Uh,
Hmm.
so it really creates in me some mental toughness, truthfully. And trying to understand like this is when I said like entrepreneurship would be hard and owning a business is hard. This is what hard feels like. So this
Hmm.
is like me feeling that hard, right?
Right. That speaking of hard, it's something that I say to my kids, and sometimes they roll their eye, just like, you know what? You do the hard things, life will be easy, right? You do the easy things, life will be hard. And
Mm,
and so they just kind of like roll my eyes like, hey, look, I mean, because that's the thing, like when you do the hard, it's like what you're going through, what we all go through when we're building a business, right? It's like we
hmm
got to do the hard things that days that we feel like we don't want to do. I mean, doing things that we don't want to do, but we know that we need to do it in order to, grow the business or eat, and even just growing ourselves, like the things you do. I
hmm
know we had a conversation where you talk about CrossFit, right?
hmm
I
hmm
mean, and you're like you're going through CrossFit, and yet physically it's hard. Want to share that experience? What you were telling me about that?
Yeah. So Richard Branson, the billionaire guy who owned Virgin everything, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Cruise Lines, Virgin Airlines, all that stuff. He had a big meetup at his private island on Necker Island, right? And one guy asked him, "What's the secret to being more productive?" And he thought about it for a second and he said, "Workout." And doing that more and more consistently now, I can see why he said that, for two reasons. One, it makes you physically disciplined with something. So it's doing the hard things anyway. So particularly for a CrossFit workout, you're so like on Thursday, I had to do 150 kettlebell swings with a 70-pound kettlebell, which is massive. Then you
Hmm.
do 300 lunges and 150 push-ups. And you can do it however way you wanted to, but it took me like 40 minutes to do. And halfway through, I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to finish. I should just quit. I should just fake puking so I should get out. I can get out of this. But I kept going and just did little by little by little, and I finished eventually. I was the last one done, but I finished anyway. And afterwards, I'm like, okay, like now I know I can do stuff. I can still push through things and do things hard. So one, it makes you physically disciplined to do hard things and force yourself to do things. And number two, I think it builds that mental toughness in you because when you hit those walls in entrepreneurship, when you have a fire or you have frozen pipes or you have an empty property for a long time or you can't sell something or your business is going down in revenue, those things really do make you mentally tough. So instead of giving up, like usually what's the easy thing to do, the hard thing to do is to press through that wall, to solve problems, to figure out new things. And it really does make you a creative problem solver. So I think those two things really help with the physicalness preps you for the mental toughness that comes with entrepreneurship and business.
Right. And I mean, it's like even when you look at athletes, right? I mean, and they're doing stuff that just seems so incredible, right? But then you see why they succeed in other areas of their life, right?
Hmm
Because they're applying that same toughness, the same grit, you know. And one of the things that for me that I adopted to help with that, like doing the hard things, like one of my routine is I take a cold shower in the morning.
Every
Okay.
morning, huh?
Every morning, and I'll be honest, it's not fun, especially when it's minus 30 degrees outside, and you'd rather just take a warm shower. But I know that I do it because it's helping me build my mental toughness, right? It's like, okay, I hate this. I mean, and it's I do it. It's like, a minute and a half to 3 minutes is where um is how long I'm there for five
hmm
minutes because I think there's a study. They said like after 3 minutes, there's like a diminishing return.
Yep.
But so like a minute to 3 minutes, that's kind of so I do at least a minute and a half, and up to 3 minutes. But at first when I've done it, I didn't like, and I still don't like it, honestly, but I know that if I continue to do it, it's just helping me build that mental toughness, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's
Hmm.
how, like, when I'm facing encounters, challenges, it's like, okay, I got this. I can do this, right?
Yeah.
And
Because you
and
also
I've,
do
I've
marathons, don't you?
yeah, I've done my first marathon last year, and it was not easy, right? But like you, when you're doing your CrossFit, like you just do it, right? It's like, okay, like there's times where you feel like, oh man, you feel like you're hitting a wall, but you just kept pushing through, just one step at a time, one step at a time.
Hmm.
And I used to do CrossFit like you, and I know, I mean, that is it's no joke. I mean, it is tough. It,
Hmm.
it, it is
Hmm.
tough, but at the same time, it's rewarding because once you're done, and then you get done with your workout, you're like, oh man, I'm glad I didn't quit, right?
Uh-huh.
Glad you
Uh-huh.
did.
So it's the same because like Thursday, that happened Thursday.
Mhm.
And then the next day, yesterday, we had to do 105 burpee pull-ups
Oh
in
wow.
however long it took you. So like that's another one. So like even though you finish it Thursday, I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, great, I finished it. This is good. I know I can do this. Then the next day, same thing. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this. I should just quit right now. And then you
Hmm.
finish it anyway. So it's like even the the consistency also add like the hard things consistently really do add up over time. And even there's recent studies now from Alex Huberman that he talks about there's this either chemical or spot in your brain that when you force yourself to do things you don't want to do, and that's the key, the things you don't want to do, that actually increases your mental toughness. Like there's a literal chemical release that actually for like pushes you past that wall more and more. The more that you do things you don't want to do, the more you build that the physical chemical or part of your brain actually becomes larger and actually helps you to do things harder. So again, Richard Branson, right? I'm sure that's the same thing. It's like making billion-dollar brands, multiple airlines, cruises, mobile companies, whatever else he does, right? Like that takes grit long over time to continue to do
Right.
hard things and grow, right?
Right. I mean, and he even has a space company,
Does he really?
right? Yeah, it was like Virgin Galactic, I think
No
is what it's
way.
called. Yeah, like he takes people out into space and tries to get them to go out in space.
Yeah, you're right. Virgin Galactic. That's
Yeah.
insane.
I mean, that guy is amazing. That it's just amazing to just I read a book, to see if he book he wrote. Um I think it's like something like F it, just do it, right? Um Something like that. And he just talks about, just do it. And he talks about when he was younger, his mom would drop him off like literally like half a mile from where his house would be, and they would make him walk to their house, right? It's like, okay, get out, and you're just walking, and they and so he would do that, and he's always doing things that gets him out of his comfort zone, causing things for him to grow. And I think that's why he does so well in all the
Hmm.
businesses. He's built that mental toughness, doing the hard things, right? And he's just done it consistently. And when you start to do the hard things, like it's just not one hard thing, like you say, you stack it on top of each other. It's like one
Hmm.
workout, next it's another workout, and I'm sure the next workout it's just going to be just as hard, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
like you're talking about the research studying, it just stacks up on top of each other, and then that's how you grow. And when you look at any other successful entrepreneur, you can see how they're always dealing with challenges, right? Hard thing
Hmm.
after another. And those for people who look from the outside, like, man, how did they do it? Right? Because they keep doing it, right? And they
Hmm.
keep doing
Hmm.
it. And that's why even doing the little things, like you said, like one of the things I hate is I hate like opening up my mail. I get stuck in mail, and it's not they're just bills, right? And I just hate that. I was like, but I had to switch my mindset. It's like, okay, I'll just call it my fan mail. They're asking me for donations or something. But
That's
that's
hilarious.
because it's been a challenge for me. And it's like okay, like, like so I like we talked last week about time blocking, right? It's like, okay, set my timer, 15 minutes. I'm just going through my mail, however amount of mail I get done at that time. I'm just going to put it away and then just do it the next day. Right.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and then over time, the stacks of mail starts to go down versus just letting it stack up and just never do it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
15 minutes here, 15 minutes there.
So how have you seen that translate into investing in real estate investing? So doing like what hard things come up that you have to
Mhm.
consistently deal with and to get better at?
Right. One of the things like when I started like, going door knocking, right? Or even cold calling. I mean, it's not easy. Like a lot of people are afraid to pick up the phone, right? It's like, okay. Um, when we're talking to people, they get nervous. And I mean, it sucks, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And thinking this kind of goes back to my early days when I was in college. I was I was actually a telemarketer, right?
Really?
Back in
Okay.
those days, right? And and I was working in college and here I am. So, we get paid like a base, hourly pay, and then we get bonuses based on how much we sell. And this is when there was between I was working at that time it's MCI Communication. They no longer exist, but there was a
Uh-huh.
MCI, AT&T, and Sprint was one of like the three top phone companies. This is back in the day where you had to pay for long distance calls,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of goes way back, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Nowadays, there's no you get unlimited minutes. You call anybody anywhere. But back in those days, believe it or not, they used to have like peak times, right? If you call a certain time of the day, it costs more to make a long distance phone call.
Hmm.
And and if an MC had a program called Friends and Family, if you call anybody in their network, right, then
Hmm.
the call is free. So it
Oh.
encourages our, people to, get their friends and family to sign for him. Anyways, I digress. But so here I am making this film. I mean, it was and there was this scripts we would just read the scripts, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And the first couple of months, I just sucked at it. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to even last at this job. But here's this guy that was sitting, he wasn't sitting next to me, he was seeing the same pin as like,
Yeah.
because in the same rooms, like a boiler room, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was in the same room and he was always getting these awards, right? For like, hey, top sales, so every month. So like after like the third month, I said, man, what's this guy doing? I should go talk to him. Right. So I said,
Yeah.
hey, congratulations. How, like, I've just noticed you're doing really well. And here's the thing, he's selling the same product as I am, right? Basically reading the same script because there's a script
Hmm.
that we read and he was just like outdoing everybody else, right? So it's like, okay, so I would go in, I asked him, hey, you mind if I sit and listen to what you're doing? So I would go in early, like half an hour early, just kind of
Uh-huh.
listen to him, like, okay. And he goes, Keto, it's just you know, not what you say, it's how you say it and things like that. So I would just kind of pick up these tips. So I went from being like a bottom of the they had like 1,000 employees, right? Like
Uh-huh.
being at the bottom to eventually being in the top 5% the company making phone calls,
Nice.
right? And and so and the thing is is like doing the phone call in the beginning, it was hard. It was not easy, but I kept at it and I knew what, you know what? Because they had a like telemarketers had a really high attrition, right? I mean, people
Hmm.
start, I mean, it's like a revolving door. Like they wouldn't last because they
Right.
would just be like, oh man, this is tough. I can't do this. So they would quit. But I stuck with it because I saw this other guy's like, I know it's possible to make money doing this because this guy next to me is selling the same stuff and he's making, 3, 4 times what everybody else is making.
Hmm.
So and that was just thinking and I mean I didn't realize it at the time about the mental toughness, the thing. I just thought intuitively like if this guy can do it, I can do it too, right? But
Hmm.
looking back, it's like it's doing the hard things, right? It's going in there, showing up early, and just going through when the average people last less than a week. So I mean they
Hmm.
always had like a revolving door, like they would people, but I stuck with it. I did the hard things, and it eventually paid off, right? And then when
Hmm.
I relate this to real estate, it's like picking up the phone. It's not always fun. Because you know who you can get on the other line. Some people yell at you, swear at you, hang up on you and things like that.
Hmm.
But you know
Hmm.
what? The more you do it, right? I mean, you kind of get used to it, right? And it's
Hmm.
just like you stack up on top of each other, right? You stack it. It's like, okay, now you get to the point pick up the phone. And it's not always like you're excited. It's like, oh man, I'm excited to pick up the phone. But you know that on the other line, there's an opportunity to help somebody, right?
Right.
There's an opportunity to make a sale. But that's one aspect of like, hey, doing the hard things, picking up the phone, or even like doing the hard things like going door knocking. Like you and I've done this before,
Hmm.
right? We
Hmm.
go out, we knock on the door. I mean, we're always like nervous, and it's
Very uncomfortable.
it's
Yeah.
very uncomfortable. It's hard, right?
Hmm.
And people
Yeah.
they don't like that. They'd rather shy away and do the easy stuff. Oh, well, why don't I just send out a letter? Unless it's something a little bit more passive, right? That doesn't
Yep.
require to get face to face. And honestly, I mean, I've gotten several of my properties where I'm just talking to, knocking on doors, talking to people, and and them selling me their house. I mean, there was this one the one instance. So I just acquired this triplex, and just got done signing a piece of the lease agreement, right? And
Hmm.
here I am, I see this guy raking the yard. It's like, I'm gonna go talk to him, right? So I go talk to him, and it's like, hey, how, I introduced myself, and I asked him, if he lived there. And he goes, no, this is a rental. And I'm thinking, oh, ding ding, rental, right? Okay, great. It's like, okay, how long have you had it? So just building that conversation. And then I get to the point where, I build that rapport. It's like, hey, I'm kind of curious. Have you ever thought about selling? And he goes, as a matter of fact, I've thought about it, right? And so we get to talking. He tells me the price, and in my mind, like I already know it's a good deal, right? It's like,
Hmm.
okay, this is a good deal. And and that's why it's so important that you study your market, right?
Hmm.
Um you know your area, right? So I already know that, man, it's a good deal. So I said, okay, well, let me talk to my wife. As you know, we as even as the best, we had to get approval from our wife.
Yeah, it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, it is. That's just part of what I do. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me clear with my wife. And so long story short, we end up buying the property. Um 6 months later, because I rented it out. 6 months later, we bought it for like 225,
Hmm.
and we ended up selling it for 375 6 months
Wow.
later.
With cash
So
flow.
yeah, yeah. So I was cash flowing when I bought it, right? And then I took advantage because the market was going up. You know what? Let me sell this.
Hmm.
And that was it. So the point is, like, when you do the hard things, right? Like going door knocking, picking up the phone, like you get to the point where you'll see opportunities for you
Hmm.
to do it, where normally that would have been hard for you, right?
Hmm.
But because you've done the hard things before, right? The years before, now it's not so hard, right?
Right.
Just to go
Hmm.
but strike up a conversation with a stranger.
Hmm.
So, for you, I mean, what's something that you've done in your business, right? That it seemed hard,
Hmm.
and you were able to profit from that, or be able to grow from that.
Yeah. I think the more I'm in business, the more I'm convinced it's just showing up.
Mm.
So I think when you think of like mental toughness and like doing things, I think there's two sides. Like this is a coin. Like the one side of the coin is don't quit, keep doing hard things. And then the other side of the coin is to always learn and grow while you do it. So I think entrepreneurship kind of comes down to like don't quit and learn while you're doing it. And so I see a lot of businesses, especially the ones we've acquired, that the business owners are tired of doing the hard things, but they're not growing in learning how to do them better, or they're not growing in learning how to manage, delegate all those things. So I think a lot of it is just showing up because we have a lot of um, relationships in business where we call them and we'll call people who want to do a class or want to come and do an event with us. And they're like, oh, yeah, I want to do it. We'll call like 10 people, all of them are excited about it. And maybe one actually follows through on it. So like even just in that, there's tons of separation of people. If you just show up and do it, the separation gets like increasingly wide and people who make it and are successful. Because I think people just get tired of showing up and they're tired of doing the hard things over and over again and don't learn from them. So even for us, like we answer every email, we answer voicemails, we answer all the inquiries. And like just by that, people come to us because we ask, we show up, we follow through. And other people just don't. Businesses just don't sometimes. Like we'll call a candy vendor and they won't call us back for 2 months. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, we really want to do business with you. Like, here's this. Like, okay, we'll continue to do business with you because you are showing up, because you answer your emails, because you answer and you actually follow through on what you're going to say to do. So even just that in business, following through on what you said you're going to do is a huge, I think it's a big separator. Pace Morby said that in his industry, like with real estate investing, everything he does, he says he doesn't even have to compete, so to speak, with other people. He just has to show up more. Like there is no
Mm-hmm.
competition. There is no people out like out winning you. Possibly there is in some most industries, but like you will beat most of your competition just by showing up, and you'll beat 90% of everyone else just by coming every single day and doing your best.
Right. Yeah. It's a great reminder because there's this quote that I've read. I forgot who made the quote, but this is like 90% of success is just showing up, right?
Hmm.
And it's so true. Like you talked about, like investing in real estate. There's a study that it actually done as a realtor because it's licensed for like 20 years, right? So
Hmm.
as a realtor, when when the for sale by owner pops up. Okay. The first week, you get like a lot of people calling the first week, right?
Uh-huh.
The second week, right? You get 50, I think it's like 50% of those people will call the seller back.
Hmm.
Okay. After the third week, another 50% of that 50 falls off, right? Because they say that for sale by owners, and on the average, they will list the property like after like the third or fourth week, right? They would decide
Hmm.
because that's on first of all, let me see what I can get. Let me try myself. And then they find out it's not as easy as just sticking the sign up in the yard and then they sell
Right.
it, right? There's a lot of work that goes behind the scene in order to market the property, get the right clients through and whatnot. And so they think, well,
Right.
I'll just put a sign in the yard and I'll see I can save on commissions. But they don't realize is they actually will end up uh, getting less for the property and will end up taking longer to sell versus just hiring a professional who knows what they're doing and they can do it right for you. And so those statistics, from 100%, 50%, then you get down to 25%. So if you just keep calling them, just showing up, right? The sellers can say, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna list my house, and those agents that continue to do the follow up, right? They're the ones that's gonna get the listing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's in any, like, you're right. Like when you talk like other vendors and stuff like that in the industry, just like show up. Like I don't know how many times I've called a contractor to get a bid, and I've got a lot of work for them to do, right?
Hmm.
They don't
Hmm.
return my phone calls. It's like,
Right.
seriously, like I know you may be busy, right? But like call up, return phone calls. That's so
Yep.
simple. Just like
Yep.
we return phone calls. Like when someone calls us up on our marketing pieces, right? We make sure we follow up right away,
Hmm.
right? Like if they call within the hour, right? We got to make sure that they're returning their phone call, right? Just to say, hey, we noticed we missed your call, you know, what how can we help you and things like that. Just start the conversation. And that's the thing, is just showing up, just doing the hard things. And no matter how busy you get, like get that time block in, like we've talked about a couple of weeks ago,
Hmm.
like time block it, get things done, make sure that you have a process, right? Have a system in place. Like,
Hmm.
for us, every time somebody calls within an hour or less, we're returning their phone calls. Like that's one of our that's one of our processes.
Hmm. Hmm. I
Yeah.
think it's so helpful. Like this, like Jocko Willink, right, says he has a whole book on it because discipline equals freedom. Like when you discipline yourself, it brings about freedom in a lot of other areas of life. So when you discipline yourself in eating right, then you have a better health and energy to actually do things. When you discipline yourself in running or cold showers or working out, it makes you more free to enjoy time, like playing with your kids, running activities, buying clothes that fit, right? All that equals freedom. And so I think even in like we talk about working out and like physical things, those really do translate into the tasks to discipline yourself. So when you discipline yourself in one area of life, it really does transfer over to a lot of other areas of life you didn't think about. So cold showers in the morning every single day really does discipline you. Is like, okay, I can make a phone call every single day, or I can always follow up, even though it's time consuming and difficult and awkward, I can still do it. And that discipline then equals freedom in talking to people, equals freedom in saying yes or no to a bunch of properties because you have so many coming in, right? So really
Mhm.
the discipline part really does bring about the freedom you're looking for and the opportunities you want.
Right. Yeah, I remember years ago I read a book, Steve Art Ecker. Um, it's called, I think it's called like The Millionaire Mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about like how you do anything, how you do everything, right? Just like you say it, like it bleeds into the areas in all the areas of your life. Like you discipline yourself in, doing your workouts. You discipline yourself in your morning routine or taking cold showers or whatever it is. You can see it bleeds into other parts of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important we kind of, be intentional about how we show up, right? Just really be intentional of how we do things because it's gonna go in other parts of us, and you may not realize it. But once you start to realize it, and that's where the change
Mm-hmm.
happens, right? You think, okay, man, you know what? This is um this habit that I have that's not serving me, it's bleeding other parts of my life. So maybe I
Mm-hmm.
don't do that or replace it, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
they say like to quit a habit is replace it with another positive habit, right? You
Yes.
have a bad habit, okay? You know what? Um, Replace it with another habit that is more positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In my own life, I had to cut out sugar, like all sugar, no processed sugar, no fruits, no corn syrup, all that stuff. And for the
Hmm.
last, what day, like 40 days, I've had it for the last 40 days, no processed sugar. So I've
Oh,
had like honey
nothing,
or
huh?
nothing, nothing. And the first week, I'm like, give me some ice cream or give me something
Ah,
like just give me a crumble cookie. Like I just want something sweet. And
hmm.
now it's like I replaced it with fruit and like other good things. And like, man, fruit tastes so sweet now. Like anything that's a good healthy fruit, berries with some honey or yogurt, like is just so
Hmm.
delicious now. And so like things change. Like you just my taste buds have literally just flipped over to something different.
Hmm.
And so that again, it just transferred over to everything in life. Keep pressing through the wall, keep doing it, learn to do different things, and it really does come out the other side. But it takes time. And I think in especially my culture, my age, I'm 29, right? And so kids younger than me and right among the age, we have a microwave view of things. Everything's just like minute, start,
Hmm.
done in a minute, and I can't wait for the minute to be done because it's so slow. Or like compared to older generations, it's like a slow cooker mentality where things
Hmm.
take time. They take 24 hours. You got to really smoke that thing and have like the slow and like low and slow heat to a big
Hmm.
brisket that makes it nice and tender. So I think
Right.
get replacing that mentality with like, man, it takes time over time learning the new things. It really is simple, but it does it in practice. It takes work and patience.
Right. Yeah. I've heard a saying once, like, success is simple but not easy, right?
Hmm.
It's those
Hmm.
simple things, but it's not necessarily easy. Like you talk about, like not eating processed sugar. I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy because when you look at all the food products we have, a lot of it has sugar in it. And
You can't even
you
have
know,
jerky. Jerky has sugar.
Yeah,
It's
it's
wild.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting that you talk about sugar because that's something that I'm trying to reduce in my life, right? Like, I mean, hey, I mean, I love my ice cream, and Costco now has those um chocolate chip cookies. Have you had it yet?
No, because it's been they
I
like
know,
come out
but
the last couple months.
but anyways, I mean, and it's like huge, right? It's like a
Hmm.
1,000 calories in those sugar, and they're delicious. So like when I go there, like my daughter says, "Hey, can we get a cookie?" And like, okay, I will get a cookie. But that's something that I'm working on, like reducing in my life is like these processed sugars and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
but I'm glad to see that you're doing. It's been 40 days, huh?
Yeah, let me check exactly how long. Um, I track everything, right? And I make sure. So yeah, today is day 40. Um, so 39 days total.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's
Well.
yeah, so you got to track things. So the same point of like figure out what hard. So if here's like the practical steps for people watching this thing, I think, and you can add to it keto is that pick something to do. So pick phone calls, like we talked about before, or door knocking or letters. Pick one of those things. Just do it consistently. Commit to a time period. Track it. Track those things and see how many days have I done this? How many calls did I make today? What was the outcome of that? And then fourth, reevaluate. Evaluate how you're doing those things and then repeat, right? So you got to
Right.
do all those things in that order. Pick something, commit to doing it, see how the results were, track it and reevaluate and then do it again and repeat the process.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
now that's great. I mean, and that's true because I mean, if you don't focus on it, right? Like and if you're not tracking, like how do you know it's effective, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're sending out thousands and thousands of letters and you're spending all this money in sending out those letters and you're not tracking, okay, what's my return out of 1,000 letters? How many phone calls? You know, am I getting from this? You know, and then out of those phone calls, how many uh, are we actually converting into a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so you just track those things because what we figured out was when we were sending out our letters, okay, the national average says if you're getting a 2% response rate, that is excellent. That's what you should
Wow.
want. 2% would be like a good response rate. And what was interesting was when we started doing our letters, we were getting a 5% response rate. It
Wow.
was crazy. We're like, wow, this is interesting because the same letter that we sent out into a different market, it was like crickets, like
Mm.
nothing. And the letters were exact same, but it's just a different market, right? But when we focus on the Billings market and with the same type of letter, we're getting a 5% response rate. So which is
Wow.
good. Like so people were, out of 100 letters that we sent out, we get like 5 phone calls, right? And and like and out of those 5 phone calls, we would get at least one deal or so out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes time to cultivate those, but if you track those leads, we know where that lead came from. Oh, it came from this mailer that we sent out. So we're
Mm-hmm.
always tracking. Lately, our response rate has been pretty low because, as you know, the market is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
But when
Mm-hmm.
we're starting out, we were getting like a 5%, which is like that's crazy, crazy response rate. And
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah, so
Wow, that's really cool. So yeah, you got to track stuff. You got to keep doing stuff. And man, it's
mhm.
like because like I'm sure that when you sent out the first letter, it didn't come back 5%, but then you realize, okay, if we sent it out this way, we get actually a better response if we had this, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you gotta, once you kind of track it, sometimes like, hey, is it the envelopes, right? Or is it like what part of it is getting them to open? So you gotta track it. Like, what do we write? So that's why like now we've gotten to a point where we know what letter works, and we just use that same letter, the same process, and we just send it out. And like I said, it's about doing it over time, and then because you just never know when someone's ready. Because sometimes we'll call people and say, "Oh yeah, I've been getting your letters for over a year now," because we send it out every quarter, right? So they're getting the same letter from us because you never know when you're going to hit them. So,
Mhm.
so like one seller will get 4 letters from us each year. And we just continue, you know, keep sending those letters because sometimes we'll hit or sometimes they may tell their friends, you just never know, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then once we do get them into, once they call, we get them in system. I mean, we show up, right? We show up, we continue to connect with them. Whereas every other month we're giving them a phone call, we're touching them. In real estate, you learn when I was an agent, we did what's called like um, it was like 13, 21 touches, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
meaning that they did a study and they said the average touch that you need to get to people, it's something like about, like 12, no, so, like 8 touches, I think, right?
Hmm.
So meaning that for example, if I said, okay, who is the top name 3 soda brands? What company comes to mind?
Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper.
Okay, right? And if it's okay, name um name the fourth, no, name five soda brands. So,
Uh, I think all of them are owned by each other. Lollipop or like Top Lolly, and then I don't know, Celsius.
well,
That's
the
not
thing
even a
is,
soda.
it's kind of harder to think, right? Because
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
you're getting impressions from Coke and Pepsi and Dr. Pepper and stuff because they keep touching you with marketing pieces, right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing. And in real estate is you keep showing up, right? And then when they think about real estate, you want them to think of you, right?
Right.
It,
Yeah.
it it's not who you know, is who knows you, right?
That's a great point.
So,
Yeah.
and that's the same thing when you're like your monkey around business, right?
Hmm.
You get yourself out there, it's going to be people who know you that can be calling you because they're going to come out of the
Yeah.
woodworks because you're getting yourself out there and you're getting touches, right? Whether you're doing your social media, your marketing, your emails, things that you're getting out, you're always touching. So when they think of somebody, like a place to take their young kids to, they're going to think, oh, monkey around. Let's
Hmm.
go to them. Let's throw a party for our 6-year-old or whatever, right?
Yep. Yep.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's why just doing those touches gets gets you into their head. So,
Hmm. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on today? Mental toughness, anything like that?
Yeah, I think one of the thing is like, the mental toughness and how these skills, in this channel we talked about investing and things, but these things all relate, right? Like
Hmm.
how we
Hmm.
do things in our personal life, how it leads into our business life.
Yeah.
And it's just continue, like you said, you're always going to be learning, you're always going to be growing, right? If you don't grow, you're going to be stagnant. And just doing the things that are uncomfortable, like
Hmm.
even as we speak, just doing these things wasn't always easy for us to get on these calls. But you know what? We're doing it. We're showing up, right?
That's right.
And
Yep.
and then that's the thing. And the people that are watching, they get to watch our journey. And
Yeah.
hopefully, we want to provide value for them that they can get something out of this and apply it in their life and grow their business or grow uh, wherever it is that they want to grow, to reach their goals and their dreams. So,
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
I'll leave you with one story that I heard for mental toughness and like succeeding. This one guy in Omaha, Nebraska, he was training for a marathon and I think he entered himself, got the qualifications, did that. And months before or soon before, he had a stroke. Okay. So, whole half of his body couldn't move. He did the rehab and started to do better, but then he still entered the marathon. And when the gun went off, everyone sprinted ahead and he just went step and then plop with one foot, then step, plop all the way. And he didn't finish first or second or anything, but he finished dead last, but he finished and he finished the race. And after the race, the guy who won the Boston Marathon that year was there and saw him compete and finish. And he came out, took the medal, and placed it on him and says, you're way more qualified to know like what it takes to win and to win the marathon. So like that guy, even though like I can't imagine doing that for hours
Oh yeah,
of
and it's
of
not
plodding
it's not
along.
easy. Yes, yes.
Not easy, but he did it anyway, pushed through it, and at the end, he didn't get the first place, but he got a greater reward of his own win. And the other people seeing it's like this is what toughness is. This is what a winner looks like. Is someone who keeps going and presses through.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that story, you guys. And the thing is, like, keep showing up, keep doing the thing, right? Like, you don't have to be the first, but just keep doing it because, at the end, it's really like your success is up to you, right?
Mhm.
No one's gonna do it for you. Building a business, no one's gonna do it. You're gonna have to do it yourself. You're gonna have to, take that one step at a time, right? Just one
Mhm.
step at a time. Keep going, and you will get there. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for joining us on our episode. Continue to tune in, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. See you next time.